launching of sorts of this new Free Columbia program. And last night we heard Noah Levinson's final story. That was extremely well told and hilarious. And we all had a very entertaining evening. This evening is going to be a talk from myself, and then we will see a movie that Harrison Tan, who you're here in the back, made during his residency. And so that's very exciting. And yeah, so I'm going to talk about the beginning of this residency program, what it has developed into, and I was trying to think. I felt inspired to talk about something, but I couldn't quite find what it is. And then I reconnected to my roots with biography work, and I said, I want to find the threads that I think brought, or not know. I don't know that this is what brought the residency program around, but some little moments in my life and Free Columbia that came together here in this moment in time to have the residency program. And I'll tell that story with some songs that I wrote in my residency, which was the first residency in this format at Free Columbia, moving into Laura asking me to be the director of the residency program, and here I stand now. So what is the Free Columbia residency program? Well, it's nothing special. It's an art residency. You come, you have studio space, you live in a community house, and you complete a project of your own choosing. And that in itself is a form that exists in the world and is a great thing. And we could do just that and be doing something amazing, but I guess what I want to talk about is what I think is special about this residency program being at Free Columbia as an anthroposophical institution, as a spiritually inspired initiative, and a groundbreaking experiment. In many ways, is how I'm starting to see it. And what that looks like for the residency program being unique is we have a Tuesday potluck every week where residents have an opportunity to share their works in progress of the project they chose, of their own inspiration. And the audience and the community there is there in support of that artist becoming themselves and the project becoming itself. And I found that to be very engaging for myself, and to it taught me everything I needed to learn and to work on, to take the next steps in my musical practice, because I had to show up every Tuesday and perform something. And that made me work. So that in itself is also simple, but it's really beautiful what the interest of a community can do. If somebody is looking at a piece you made, and they say, wow, that's really amazing, it makes me feel this way, or what were you thinking when you made it darker down here? I'm going to wake up and paint tomorrow. So that interest, I think, is the key piece of the residency program. Before I get into the music and the story, just a little background. Free Columbia is a arts and education initiative that's been around for 15 and a half years now. Started by Laura Summer and Nathaniel Williams as a way to spirit through color. It began as painting courses, and then it flourished and blossomed into many other iterations of puppetry and shoemaking and a year-long gap year program for young adults called the MC Richards program, and so much more. And I think there's this idealistic thread in it of modeling some anthroposophical ideas like threefolding in free culture. Everything at Free Columbia is offered on a sliding scale of 0 to the cost. And that being the idea that the economic sphere can support the cultural realm to move humanity forward in its morals and beliefs, and that should be accessible to everyone regardless of socioeconomic background. And I think also an ideal of community. This is my perception. Laura might have different ideas, but what I've seen, and I've been around Free Columbia since the beginning because I've known the Summers that whole time, even though I lived in Minnesota, but a community of people dedicated to their inner development. And so I think that intention rides behind it as well. So, yes. And so the guiding kind of statement that has come through with the residency program that I want to bleed through this story I'm going to tell is this: art and music created consciously and shared with the world will change the world. So that was a belief I had to come to in my residency, in believing in myself, but now I really believe it, and I think that we'll see if we can learn more about that throughout these threads I want to bring together here. So let me just play some saxophone. So I love biography work, which is a practice of looking back at your life and gaining insights on your present moment. And so I'm going to share a story about mostly myself. I hope that doesn't come across as too self-centered. But it's also, I think, a universal story of artists, of the artist's path. it can't start without mentioning my sister, who passed away in a car accident in Harlemville while going through her senior year at Hawthorne Valley. And she had just started her senior project, and Laura was her mentor. And she had started these ideas of a multimedia art, some kind of show. I don't really even know, but there's some journal writing about it somewhere. And I was 4 at the time and lived in Minnesota. And so clearly my connection to this area has been alive my whole life. There's not much more to say about that. And then, let's see how much time I have to tell this story. If we fast forward to when I'm 16, I'm idealistic. I think the government's terrible, you know. I believe in freedom. And I want to fight for my rights and the rights of every downtrodden person ever. And the RNC was in St. Paul, and there was a huge amount of protests around the Iraq War at that time. And there were like 1 million people or something were in the streets. And so I was going every night to these protests. And then finally, on the 4th night, it was like not a permitted protest, and the police start corralling us around the city on horses and stuff like this. And then they trapped us all on the bridge, 300 people, and we had to sit there for 4 or 5 hours, and we all got zip tied, and I spent the night in jail in juvenile detention. And this was very demoralizing because I thought there's no way that protesting and activism is going to change the world. There has to be something else. And my thinking about this story made me realize how blessed I've been in my life. My dad had the foresight to, he said, well, maybe you should reflect and write about this. And so I did. I went and wrote something, and what came out of that was, I believe that community is the thing. That's my activism. That's what's going to change the world. And my dad somehow got this published in some Anthem thing. And I felt justified. All right? Now, but you'll notice he paid an interest in something in me. And then, fast forward, I'm 20, is that the next story? I'm 24, and I want to focus on that community building. I want to bring that in as my activism. And so instead of going to college, I took my college savings and I bought a house. I said, we're going to have community here. And I had all my friends live at the house, and we would have music shows, and we called it the Revolving Parlor Community House. And there was social functions, and it was a hub of cultural activity in many ways. And we renovated room by room, and there was 6 rooms here, and I managed this whole house for 7 years. Now, I'm not going to go into how I got disillusioned with this, but anyways, you might imagine that bunch of 20-year-olds in a house don't always get along. And I thought, community is great, but I'm not going to change the world just with that. I had to turn to myself. I had to change my inner state. And so this is when I turned to biography work and meditation in some ways. And I said, okay, if I can't change myself, how can I expect the world to change? So inner development became my new activism. And started going along that. Meanwhile, Martin calls me up. I'm 28 now. He's like, I got a driveway to build. And so I flew out to New York. I'm going to build a driveway. And then this revolutionary idea comes from Martin. He's like, we can build a driveway, but you gotta play music in the morning. I was like, okay. And so I was staying at Laura's house, maybe in the yurt. No, Matt was in the yurt. I was in the studio. And all of a sudden, I had this time to play some music in the morning, and I started working on my own songs, and I didn't really have a comprehension of that, but at the time, but it was a beautiful thing. And yeah, so I'll play one of those songs that I eventually finished in my art residency. Outside, you can do it. Red wine, walk away. Red blood, why you waiting? You cry, you cry, you cry. You cry, you cry, you cry. Away from the pain, look here now, never gonna be away from you. You can do it, baby, just get in the line, step into the wonder zone, where you get to play all day, you get to play all night. Why you waiting outside when you could be inside? Outside and you gotta get in. Why you waiting? Upside down in this one-side town. Walk Valerie was there, Laura was there, Daniel Williams was there, Frank Agrama was there, and we got together and just did an art project for a week and talked about art and had these conversations. And I remember I was so nervous to say anything in these conversations. It was like circle talks. My whole heart, my neck would be pounding. And the one thing I said that I like choked out to all these anthroposophists, I was like, but what about the rapper 2 Chainz? He deserved to be a valiant artist as well. And I'm not really sure what my point was, but it was something about, you know, other cultures and bringing another perspective in. And David Adams published this quote in an interview or in an article about the art conversions. And Laura showed me like a year later, and this was another moment that somebody paid interest in me, even though I didn't know what the heck I was talking about. But I always remember being like, why did he put that in there? But I wrote a song there, and at that art convergence at 20. And somehow I think that thread is coming through now at Free Columbia as well. It's a very simple, one phrase song with a couple of parts that I think I taught everybody, and then I had like a more hip-hop version with a beat that I played for Fruity Loops or something, and we all marched around. As we walk into the sun, striving for a better day, in the hills the shadows play beneath the light of the flickering moon. As we walk into the sun, striving for a better day, in the hills the shadows play beneath the light of the flickering moon. As we walk into the sun, striving for a better day, in the hills the shadows play in the light of the flickering moon. So then as after Martin introduced me to, you could be an artist too. You can play music every morning and write your own songs. I eventually decided I'm leaving Duluth and I'm moving to New York. And that's when I asked Laura if I could spend some time at Free Columbia, and the Tuesday potlucks came around. And all those moments that in many ways the summer family and my family, and I don't know, I just wonder if, seeing all those moments of where the interest gave me the confidence to do my thing a little bit, brought about this Tuesday format of creating a space where people can step into something they're inspired to do and have support in that, and also reflection and screw up and say, okay, I gotta go work on this, and if I want to do this, if I want to be a musician or whatever it may be. And so, yeah, that was just interesting for me to reflect on, and thank you for going on that journey with me. And so then, to kind of wrap up, so then Laura was looking for what's Pre-Columbia going to do now, and she asked, do you want to make this residency program? We said, sure, let's do it. And then a couple weeks later, we hadn't told anybody about this. Harrison calls and he says, can I do a residency at Pre-Columbia? And a couple weeks later, he showed up and made a film for 2 months. And that's been the story of this residency program. It's just natural progression and natural enthusiasm and growth from this beautiful community around here. And then Miranda and Gable came. Miranda looking for community and throwing her weight into her work and her artistic practice, and Gable firing up the kiln and getting his practice going, and now stepping into Pre-Columbia as the ceramics manager. And Noah was here, and he came and worked so hard and showed us all how much sweat and tears you have to put into a project to do something like he did last night. He kept saying, if I'm alive by the end of this, you'll hear a story. And he was alive at the end. And his partner Lily came for a month and wrote a story, and was just, she showed us how you can gracefully shine like a beacon of light and tell the sweetest story out of love. And but also we really have to thank the youth section organizers and the youth in this area in general for getting behind, because you have to have a community to have a Tuesday potluck community event every week, and it's been really amazing to see that, and it's really inspiring and exciting. And of course all the other community members as well.
What's next?
What's next? Yes, I'll end with some saxophone. And we will try this program out for this coming year.
We're full.
We're full for the year, basically.
For the summer, yeah.
For the summer. It's like, if Stevie comes, we got like one room open in the fall.
I'll be there.
So yeah, stick around and see what happens. And I'll close with some saxophone, and then we'll take a brief break while we set up Harrison's film.
What are all these paintings?
Eloise's paintings are filling this gallery space. And And she just came to our residency program at the beginning of January.
She's been painting a lot.
She brought some paintings with her, but some of them have been completed in the last month.
Are you going to give us a gallery tour?
I can. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
So the gallery tour after this. Thank you.
When's your next concert?
March 8th, I'm playing at the Grange for a local music showcase. Also, Ruth Plum is playing
Where's the Grange?
in Hillsdale.